Hello, everybody. I just want to welcome you. Some of you who were here for the session before have met me already. My name's Bob Snyder. I'm an industry editor, but here today I'm in my role as the content chairman for the Smart Building Conference that's organized, owned, and run by the ISE. It occurs the day before the ISE begins, and we bring together some of the best brains behind smart building across the world to come and fly into ISE and discuss some of the trends and the interesting things. I have the advantage of listening to all those experts and the advantage of all their insights to share. And today I've put together an easy overview that will give you an idea of what is happening in smart buildings, how does it relate to the bigger ISE, and if you're interested in that business, perhaps some of the steps that you could take to engage it. The organizers have asked me to explain this first. This is a catch box. It's for the audience. If you have a question, you can just throw it to somebody who can catch. And please speak directly into it, because it's actually a microphone surrounded by a cube, making it safe. I'm going to have to toss this back into the audience because it looks very awkward. Sir, would you mind playing catch for a sec? And if anybody has a question, just chuck it to them. Yes, thank you. All right, here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start saying, if you want to talk about smart buildings, you've got to put it in some sort of context. For example, I don't think you can talk really in great depth about airplanes if you're not going to talk about airports, and if you're not going to talk about control towers, if you're not going to talk about those other aspects of the business that drive it. And I think that if the slides are coming, there we go. So from this industry's point of view, where did we get started? How did we get dragged into smart buildings? We got dragged into smart buildings because we were preoccupied and concerned about rooms. The audio-video industry did a lot of work understanding rooms. We measured them, we ran tests, we explored, how far away do you have to be from a screen in a room? Which corner does the sound bounce off of to make it most effective? We spent years, decades in this industry learning all about the rooms and nothing about the buildings. But we said we're in the business of providing these services to the built environment. Now, what smart building is at the essence, at the heart, is it's the digital disruption of the construction industry. It's the biggest change we've seen in construction in 100 years. I mean, basically, we haven't really changed the way that we live, the way that we work, the way that we run our offices. And now comes along the internet and the internet platform. And this is doing to the construction industry the same thing that happened to the record industry, the same thing that happened to the photo industry, the same thing that happened to the film and Hollywood industry. The digital opportunity is flipping the construction industry over, providing newcomers a way to come out and take business away from incumbents, providing people with totally new ways to do things, and they're doing it mainly through software. I'm not going to take credit for this. This is Mark Andreessen, who is a much smarter man than I am and a much richer man for that. And he was the first to try to explain that software will eat the world, and the digital disruption comes from being levered by software. And the opportunity to take things that were traditionally done by hardware, by boxes, by heavy kit, and to get the job done down a digital pipeline. One of the words that we use a lot is convergence. You've probably heard it on my stage on the first day before the show started. People were talking about convergence. It sounds like two country brooks running together into a nice gentle stream, a pleasant unification. I don't think it's like that at all. I think it's more like these industries are coming together like atomic nuclear reactions. Electrons are flying around, smashing into the neutrons of industries, and off are coming new particles, new combinations, new types of technological solutions that throw up the old way that we put together buildings, that we put together the way that we lived and worked. I don't think it's bubbling brooks merging gently. I think it's a violent, I think it's an exciting, and I think it creates booms of results by the way it smashes together. This slide gives you an idea of the way that people were thinking of smart buildings 10 years ago. They still had computers in mind, but there was all these little different parts that weren't really connected, but maybe the computer in the end tried to sum up a few things. The construction industry was locked into silos of operation, separate standalone things that people had to bring in, and they were contracted, run independently, and people had their own places of authority, their own places of expertise. I think this is very important to everyone in this room, everyone that's come out of the integrated systems industry, to understand that the digital disruption breaks down the silos, and by virtue of the integration, this is why we're standing here in the middle of ISE talking about smart buildings in the first place. I've had some of the incumbents of building come on my stage here at ISE, and they put up a chart like this. This is a chart that shows, and Joe, you've probably seen hundreds of these. It shows here's all these silos coming together in a nice backbone by the way that the incumbents view the world. But there's something missing. There's something missing in that chart, and I want to take one step back for a minute and to explain, and this, we touched upon this a little bit, Joe, but buildings are a business. They're put up by people who want to make money off doing this. And if they can't see a return on the technology, they're not reaching into their wallets, they're not supporting anything, because they're in a tough business. Margins are very low, the stakes are high, the money in the capital is impressive. They're not interested in innovation for the sake of innovation. They're not trying to say, my skyscraper is prettier than yours. They want to know, how much per square meter am I going to make off doing this? And there's a bunch of stakeholders in the process. Each one has its wallet. Each one is defending its wallet and has to see a positive outcome if you're trying to change the way that we work or the way that we make buildings smarter. The reason why smart buildings are gaining some traction is when they look at all these different silos that I showed you on the chart, they suddenly realize if you can put all of that interest onto one backbone instead of a dozen other silos, suddenly you've got cost savings, suddenly you've got more control, and suddenly you can add services that you didn't even really consider before. The IP backbone is the change that makes it a playground for us, makes it viable for the property owners, and it creates opportunities that we can latch onto. This is a much better chart. I showed you two old ways that people looked at a smart building, but today you'll see on this chart digital signage has suddenly appeared. It's not just about heating, ventilation. It's not just about energy. We've got audio visual. We've got voice and data. You can't imagine creating a new corporate headquarters today and not building in Wi-Fi. Or, to some degree, even more connectivity, which requires cellular and some fancier stuff. But the point is, you would not build a corporate office today and not enable it to access internet. So this chart is the newest look at smart buildings, and hallelujah, the audio video industry gets a place on this chart finally. It wasn't there 5 years ago. Digital signage placed on the chart. Voice and data is not only a place on the chart, it may end up to be the driving seat of the chart. I visited today this building, the Edge Olympic, which is the next generation of smart building. It's here in Amsterdam. The man who drives that project, the man who's pushed that technology forward, he's not out of the construction industry. He is an IT manager who fell, he says himself, by accident into somebody saying, we're making a new building, what could we do to make it a little more smart, modern, add value? What can we do? So this man has incorporated a lot of the technologies that you will see on this show in different corners, whether it's beacon technology, sensors, some more elaborate Wi-Fi, big data analytics, digital signage. And if you get a chance to visit this building, it's quite an impressive thing. These are the driving forces that are playing and enabling us to make it to smart building. The three big horses are the internet, the cloud, and the mobile. Today it's also big data and information, the Internet of Things, the IoT. Even AI should probably be on my slide, but it's still so new, I hesitate to put it there. But now that we have the internet, the cloud, and the mobile all acting together, suddenly there's a tremendously new business on Internet of Things saying we can connect up all these devices. We can connect up 10 times, 100 times more things in the next 5 years than we connected up people in the other 10, which was an impressive figure by itself. We connected up billions of people. We put them on the internet in the last 5 years. But we're going to connect all sorts of devices to give us quality inside of the buildings for the smart office, the smart home, and the smart building. Think of how your own personal lives have changed. I don't know about you, but I think I'm in the Netflix side of this chart somewhere. I'm not sure what life without Netflix would be these days, but this is a chart of what happens in 60 seconds on the internet. And if you can see all those things that some of them probably touch you, and some of them have changed your life and the way that you live, socialize, work, and play, this is the parallel, the consumer parallel to what's happening inside of a digital building. We are no longer a afterthought, a post-luxury, maybe we should, put a nice digital display in a building. We come from an industry that knows how to transmit very high quality video, to transmit emergency audio, to transmit stuff that really works compared to some of the PC stuff out there. We have an ability now to claim our seat at the smart building table. This is very different than even 5 years ago. One of the examples of how things are changing is the Huddle Room. The Huddle Room, the name comes from these little sports get-togethers. The boys all come together and they're saying something in there, ladies, I don't know. The Huddle Room comes in all sorts of creative formats, designs, and shapes. And it's a transition from large corporate boardrooms, large corporate conference rooms, boring corporate conference rooms, to exciting little meeting places that might facilitate smaller groups. I want to mention this building, which is in London. There is a company, they're even in this hall somewhere, OneLAN. In the reception area of this smart building in London, they have a digital display that when the employees are leaving from their work, it tells you, is the tube running on time? Is my tube running on time? Is it going to be 30 minutes late? If it's raining, do I have to walk all the way to the station and find out, oh God, now I'm down here and it's wet? Small, but very vital and important service that makes a lot of sense to people. It's no longer so much a luxury as it is a very valued service when it's put together in the right way. Indoor positioning. The ability to have radio beacons gives you an idea of who's where in a building when. It allows you to find out which part of the buildings are used. It allows you to find out, who has access to what, who needs access to what, how many conference rooms are being used at one time. And it's done without the intrusive nature of video cameras. They don't have to know it's you. They don't have to know what you look like with beacon and sensor technology. It's another aspect of building, let's see, I think the first speech today on this platform, the man said his building had 1,500 sensors. The building known as the Edge across here has 20,000 sensors. And all the smart buildings will have sensor technology which will help them gather data. It has to be transmitted, analyzed, and brought together in one place. To complete the picture, when the buildings become smart, the next step is the smart city. And this is a picture from a company, Libellium, which does a lot of Internet of Things connectivity. But it just shows you that once a building can become smart, it can also talk to other buildings. It can talk to utilities. It can talk to transportation. It can talk to government. We are a long way from this in most cases because the buildings aren't that smart yet. But when they become smart, the step after that is integrating and connecting them into larger networks. So, smart building, you should see it not as a destination because it's constantly moving forward. It's more of a journey. You have to start on the journey and you're not going to get there. You're in the flow. You're in motion. You're going along, but you're not looking to arrive somewhere. If you wanted to make the transition into the smart building business, I have a few observations, things that might help you do that. First of all, you have to attend some education because you have to get your heads around it. And the Smart Building Conference, which we have here at ISE, is one of the best ways to do it. It is, out of the 10 conferences that are run at ISE, the Smart Building Conference is the largest conference. It has 400 plus delegates that come and listen because some aspect of that smart building means something for their business. One place to get education. You need to make a bridge from wherever you're at. If you're in smart home or if you're in office, you need to find one bridge from your current state of business into the new world of smart building. We do have a lot of standards in smart building. And you know that darn problem with standards today. People create a standard and it never seems to go away. I would like to see a standard cemetery somewhere where we bury a lot of standards and get back to a few standards, but that's not the way of the modern world. We have a lot of standards, and in order to play in the smart building space, you have to get your head around a few standards. Like, for example, K&X is just down the road here. They are one of the largest standards in Europe. We have lots of other standards. Internet of Things. It's not as complicated as it sounds, and it's going to be one of the great ways for us to get involved in the industry because there's so many flavors of it, so many vendors that are going to want people to help them, and it's an industry which is just starting off, so everything is green field. Some of the ways people have successfully got into the business is they've lobbied vendors, saying, you know me, give me a chance with that, help me. If the vendor says, no, I don't want to take the risk, and yeah, you're a nice client, but there's other doors to knock on. And one of the best doors is distributors. One of the best doors is all the large IT distributors want to get into smart building. They want to get into smart building because it has an IT IP backbone. So if you go to the large IT distributors, they have programs to help resellers, integrators, and people get in to the smart building business. They will educate you, they'll provide you the brands, they will give you a steady flow of information, and a distributor only takes a very thin margin for that service. It's not a bad deal. There was a famous ice hockey champion, Wayne Gretzky, who was asked, Wayne, why are you so good? And Wayne's a Canadian. He's very straightforward, very honest, and he goes, well, because when I play, I don't look to see where the puck, this is the thing they use in ice hockey. Nice name, guys. I don't know where you came with that. So the puck is on the ice, and he doesn't skate to the puck. He skates to where he thinks the puck is going to be next. And he's good at reading the play, and this is why he claims he is, I think, one of the top ice hockey champions of all time. So if you come and aim at smart building, again, it's not a destination, it's a journey. You have to aim to where it's going to be, not to where it is. If you aim to where it's going to be, you're always going to be behind. You've got to anticipate, and this educational process helps you do that. Make strategic alliance with other channels. Believe it or not, there are other channels that are very uncomfortable with what we do so well, and they want help. They're electrical distribution channels, even IT channels. Make strategic alliances with audio-video channels and say, look, I got this big job. This is a small part of my big job. Can you do it? And you work together with them. They learn a little bit about what you do. You learn a little bit about what they do. Okay, they don't always work out, these strategic alliances, and small businesses are generally very uncomfortable with making alliances. Small businesses like to go it on their own. But if you look at the technology field, all the largest companies in this industry make strategic alliances, make joint ventures. None of them says we don't need anybody, we're Apple. And that's probably the closest you're going to get to somebody that says that. If you look at Microsoft, they have full-time staff just creating these strategic alliances. Very important to them, and should be very important to you no matter what size your business is. Hire in the experts. If you have a business and you want to get into smart business, there are people who are available that you can hire in and help lead you. And some of them can be people that you can employ full-time. Some people are consultants or people that'll help you, but you can hire in expertise. And the last bit I want to add is that even if you're changing slow and steady, that's better than no change at all. What we call the built environment is now going to become the smart built environment. And if you're not familiar with the environment that you're embedded in, this will penalize you more and more as each year goes by. But always, always do the one thing that you've always done. The one thing that you're good at. Integration. This industry has always been good about taking disparate pieces and trying to make it work together because no one else could do it. How great have we been at getting that job done? Take a look at this show. This show is based on the ability of us being able to take disparate things and put them together. And look at the house we've built. How impressive. Nobody out there has the ability to integrate the way that we have, and that is our strong suit going into smart building. I'm at the end of my time. I have a very, very short video that's going to be 30 seconds. I'm going to turn it off after 30 seconds.
Heeft u een mobiele telefoon?
Nee hoor, heb ik niet.
Waarom heeft u er geen?
Nou, ik zie er nog niet van in.
Dan ben je aan het fietsen en dan word je gebeld.
Ik heb gewoon een telefoon, waarvoor moet ik een mobiel hebben? Dat is handig. Maar als ik ergens strand, dan is er ook
Okay, you
ergens
can
wel
cut
een
that,
telefoon
guys.
zelf, een boerderij met een boer.
This is the end of my speech. This is, and I have to make room for the next people. This is a journalist in 1999 going around Holland going, there's this new thing called the mobile phone. Would you like one? Person after person, old lady, young person, worker, blue collar worker, white collar worker, they all said, who the heck is ever going to use a mobile phone and why would you want one? And the point being that nobody expects technology to be as smart and to be as life-changing and as work-changing it is, but smart building is something that's definitely going to change everything that we do all along the way, and it's time to embrace it now. Thank you very much for my time.